We've got so many perspectives from the four speakers. I'm going to start off with the first question that was posed to Duro. I think that question was around, can we have the power sector removed from the exclusive list in Nigeria? Duro.
Ordinarily, there is really no sector and no country in the world that does not have a certain level of participation in any commercial sector or enterprise. Largely because, for one, like Prof mentioned, standards. There have to be standards. So there has to be a regulator. A regulator needs to be there also to make sure that excessive rent seeking may not happen, but they have to balance it with demand and supply, especially for sectors where you have some form of, like Prof said, public monopoly to private monopoly. But I'm happy to say that in Nigeria, there's a lot of work being done by the regulators, even the legislators, to make sure that the discos should not be seen or move away from being what is a private monopoly to being, from a public monopoly to a private monopoly. And I touched on two investment models. Quite a few investment models. The mini grid is a method of making sure that the discos relinquish supply control of those areas where they have not been able to get to with their investment. Distribution franchising is another method. And even the discos were not able to invest in metering quickly enough because they are somewhat illiquid, and therefore the regulator was able to come up with another investment model, the meter asset provider model. Now, if you remove the sector from the exclusive list, then government will not be able to come in with intervention programs. However, government also realizes that the trajectory should be such that government's involvement is reduced over time, slowly but surely. So that's what I want to say. It will happen, but there's still need for a minimum interference, at least as far as standards are concerned. But the industry must be moved towards a market-oriented sector where demand and supply is what determines the prices and exchange prices between the various stakeholders, such that those prices must also allow for cost recovery and margins to attract investment for sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Duro. The next question is to Sammy. Sammy, the question was, are there any metrics you can provide relating to the storage element and the ability to maintain reliable electricity supply throughout the night? Are customers still reliant on backup generators? Sammy.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. On the issue of storage, I want to posit that storage is actually not the issue, but affordability. Now, if you have the space and you have the money, you can store whatever amount of power you want. So I want to rather answer that question in a different way. So essentially, what this person asking the question, assuming they are talking about this rooftop solar or distributed solar, what this person will want to do is start first with the customer's need. I have found that actually Nigerians are not really, most Nigerians, from our insight in the industry, and indeed the research we've conducted, are not looking for 24-hour supply. They are looking for consistent supply for their own need. So in our own case now, our customers are people that open from early in the morning to close to midnight. So we've given them a 15 hours power solution. We've done our calculation. You know, our CFO did a fantastic job with doing the financial affordability research, and we came up with a business and operations model that they can afford and meet their exact need, whereby they can run their business from 7 a.m. to 10 to 11 p.m. and then come the following day, again, open at 7 a.m. and know that they will have electricity supply. So what am I saying in a nutshell? Storage is not the problem. Customers' affordability is the problem. If the person is an operator, what they need to do is first of all start with identifying a gap or a segment of the market that has a power problem. So let's say, for example, in a residential area, right? And then let's say this residential area is a place where people come home at 7 p.m. in the evening, and basically, leave for work at around 7 in the morning. So you want to know that they will have power within that period, right? So you need more storage. You need more storage than somebody that is using it during the day. Does that make sense? So the other thing that I want to add is that a number of places in Nigeria, even though the electricity is a problem, a number of places still have at least a reasonable level of grid supply. So the best way to go about it is also, if the person wants to enter the industry, if you want to look at increasing or making it more affordable, you can look at people that have electricity supply and then give them backup power without panels, right? So just storage alone. So that way it's more affordable to them.
Okay.
Can I come in? Can I just quickly come in? Because it's important to rotate, this question. I don't quite really understand what is exclusive, something they were talking about that Duro talked about. But coming back to Sammy, I don't see any reason why you couldn't approach multilateral organization under their clean development mechanism that can allow you actually drastically subsidize this. That is the thing you need to do. If you're able to go into an environment like, say you are able to go to Edo State and you identify a sector and be able to quantify their carbon emissions, okay, using conventional energy and looking at the impact that has. If you're able to quantify that and be able to price that, you should be able to put that, under the development mechanism and says, well, if we are able to supply these people with this form of clean energy, so that will compensate to the CO2 that you are emitting here. And so that could be one of the ways in which you can, market it. There's another bigger incentive for them to actually use your services. And this is probably something, and you also depend on how you are as a business. And this is the issue of technological obsolescence. If you know the rate at which, solar technology changes in terms of optimization, it will be very, very expensive for individual to want to buy. But a company like yours, who might have the capacity of changing, your stock as new technology comes in, as innovation comes in. So you actually, alleviate that huge cost of, replacement, from them as a way of incentivizing them to buy, your product. What worries me though, is that if you follow that to its logical conclusion, you will find that there will be no essential difference between using your services and those who buy generators from abroad or whatever, in the sense that unless Nigeria and you have the capacity to actually start developing and manufacturing, the solar panels there for 250 or 250 million people, the economies of scale is there so that we can have control. Because my fear in the long run is that when they see this technology have taken place, just as I advised the African government not to go into this privatization and nationalization of oil companies, because what the oil companies were doing, they were engaging in what we call cross-subsidization, because they were vertically and horizontally integrated. They own the companies that make the manufacturing of drilling equipment and the rest of them. So when they nationalized it, they said, okay, you go ahead and produce it. We are the one that is going to sell you the technology and the technical expertise to get it off the ground anyway. From there, they are able to control the prices. All the benefit, you know, we are completely gone. And so these issues, we are watching these from a very, very close perspective. I just want to throw that in how we might sort of engage later. I think Nigerian Business Magazine has some ideas or whatever investors that are looking into those areas.
Yes, thank you, Professor. I can see Nahad. Miss Nahad, do you want to say something quickly? You are muted. You are muted. Can you unmute?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes.
I will ask you your question later.
Okay, that's
Did you have something to say?
No, it's fine. I wanted to address the question regarding local.
Yeah, I will. There's one more question before yours.
Excellent. Okay.
The next question was, what's the business opportunities in setting up a grid system to supply a few streets and charge interested persons? Duro, Sammy, Professor, please. One minute each, please.
Yeah, I mean, there's a system in the developed countries. Sorry, there's a system in developing countries where you call community energy. For example, I just got a letter through where I live, where they say my local authority are now going to be buying energy on behalf of his citizens and supplying it and all those kinds of things. Yes, there are community-based energy schemes, but it, as Duro and Sammy will tell you, this is not something you go into, you know. It's as Maha will also tell you, you know, that you really need the expertise and then the know-how. It's not something you just walk into blindly, you know. So you still need those people who work in this area. The scope is there, but it's how to assemble the supply chain to be able to deliver that. There's a lot of contracting that is involved, a lot of understanding between all the consumers, the suppliers, the distributors, etc., etc.
Thank you, Professor. Myself and Sammy and Duro, I think we've talked about this prior to this
I would like
seminar.
to make,
but Duro, if you can, yeah.
Just a very quick comment that, yes, what this gentleman has mentioned is under the mini-grid regulation. And it is a well set up regulation with minimum regulation compared to all the other major parts. And well, I wouldn't say contrary to what Prof has said, but in actual fact, there are package systems that can help you to achieve very quick deployment of the mini-grid system to supply a few streets and charge the interested persons, provided there has been consultation between the mini-grid producer and the community that is going to take the power. And the interesting thing about this is that the mini-grid model is, again, least regulated, and therefore means that you can charge very economic and, you know, quite high rates of return for making that power available, especially in remote but commercially viable areas. For instance, a fishing village where they need loads of frozen and refrigeration, and yet the grid has not yet gotten. There are regulations to guide the, you know, you will not be oppressed. The regulator does not oppress, allow the disco to shut you out of the market. There are ways of engaging all those stakeholders. So yes, it's a good business opportunity, and it's one of those that I mentioned earlier. And where the grid is still complaining or resisting 55 to 60 naira per kilowatt hour, in the mini grid system, you have sustainable models charging 150 naira per kilowatt hour. I will stop at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Duro. Sammy, do you want to say something quickly?
Yes, I would, as someone that is a free market, a lover of free markets, right? I'll give my perspective from the rooftop solar angle. So in terms of deploying a grid system to supply a few individuals in the streets, in a few streets, I personally, well, the person asking the question can do their own research and follow their own path, but I personally would not recommend that. Simply because when you start delving into things like that, you have to be regulated. If you are, so from next rules, right, is that if you are operating a mini grid above up to like 100 kilowatts, between 100 kilowatts and 1 megawatts, considered a mini grid, you will need a NEC license. Yes, they say it's easy, etc., and it's straightforward. I'm not doubting that at all because I know a number of people that have gotten the license, but you are subject to changes in regulation. Now, what I would, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you, yeah. We can hear you.
Hello?
Hello, yeah, we can hear you.
You can hear me now, right? Sorry, I froze there for a second.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
what I would recommend though, is for this person to, because it's a few streets, right? I'll recommend that they should engage the, let's say it's an estate, most likely. Engage the chairman of the management of the estate. Typically, they will have an association of landlords. Tell them what you can provide, right? And if it's an estate, they typically have the same need, power need, then deploy individual systems to them individually. So if you want to charge them continually, that would be an operating lease, right? That way, you would not need any NEC permit or any other regulation. So that's the approach I'll recommend. And it's also cheaper than deploying a mini grid. Because the problem with a mini grid is that you may consult them. Let's say, oh, everybody, assuming 100 people in the estate, need 1 kilowatt each of supply. They say, yes, we all need it. Then you also need to consider that you'll be looking at, maybe sometimes this one may put on the AC, etc. So you need above that capacity. You go and deploy 200 kilowatts. Now the D-Day comes, only 20 people say they are interested, right? You would actually be running at, you need a longer time to recover your money. Whereas with rooftop solar, you just basically know that this person is signing up, you deploy it. And if there's any issue, you are only dealing with only one person, not with the entire street, right? If you have to remove the solar unit. So that would be my recommendation. Yes, there are opportunities, and I would recommend you go for rooftop solar.
All right, thank you, Sammy. The next question is for Ms. Naha from Femi Osindele. He says that, you've seen the question, Ms. Naha. I don't need to read it out to you.
That's
But
fine.
it's to do with the implementation of programs that integrate local content across the value chain from gas E and P to retail electric power.
Okay, so I think we have to first start from the beginning phases of the definition of local content. Now, Nigeria in particular has a very strong, a very robust legal structure pertaining to local content. They're very specific for any IOCs, for any international companies, whether you're working in the electric sector, the drilling sector, across varied sectors of what the local content requirements are. Now, when an international company, an IOC, want to come into a region and they want to operate, they want to take a local partner. As part of a bid submission entering the region, they have to put a contracting strategy together, which actually details and implements how they are going to implement local content. Now, through experience, a lot of people and a lot of small companies have utilized and perhaps taken advantage of the leverage of what they see as perhaps not being such a high grade of kind of profession. So what that means, if you have a quota of say 30% of your workforce has to be locals, I personally myself have reviewed proposals whereby international companies or companies into the region have put a small quota whereby 10% of those workers equate for domestic staff. Now, what ends up happening is that becomes a problem later down the supply chain. For example, Nigeria in particular, with a young working force coming up, very smart, very educated, astute minds. You know, these graduates come out with some engineering degrees, legal degrees, and they are still struggling to get jobs in the oil and gas sector. I get a number of requests via LinkedIn, requesting for some sort of transparency as to how they can enter the marketplace. And these people, are young, bright minds. So the local content structure IOCs need to implement, and also they need the support of local government as well, because it's no use contractors coming in with large production sharing agreements, joint venture agreements, coming in to work on engineering sites and drilling, and have these huge drilling contracts if there's nobody to manage the local content. How do we know that a large company coming in is actually providing the workforce, is actually taking from the local pool of employment? Where is the encouragement? Where is the development of the local force? Are we providing education? Are we supporting the value chain to higher management? And the truth of the matter is, I think a lot more has to be done in country. And I think that a lot of paperwork, commercial discussion is there online, and commercial people do a great way of explaining themselves over and over again. But the truth of the matter is that we have a responsibility and a duty of care to make sure that we can support the next managing directors of large companies, of institutes in country. So local content is an integral part of any working capability of any corporation. And I talk from the other side of the fence here, and I'm talking as if I'm coming into the region working. So, we look at things like, the educational specifics of an individual, where they fit in the management criteria. Can they support a graduate scheme? So local content is very important. It supports the local workforce, and also supports local community as well. You have to encourage local services, local contractors, local companies, and the support is going to have to come from the people higher up the food chain. And that does mean people that implement policy, that means implementators as well. And in Nigeria's case, some assistance from local government as well would help. We do know, as I mentioned before, just to reiterate, Train 7, the LNG Train 7 that recently has been given the approval and the go-ahead this year, 85% of the engineering workforce for that train and for that development will be local workforce, which in oil and gas terms, it's fantastic. That's astronomical. I mean, I've never seen that in my career. So this is a really big step for the sector. So I know that small steps and policy currently in Nigeria is being set up to support it, but I do think a lot more has to be done from, international businesses entering the region.
Thank you, Ms. Naha. And before I ask the question to all panelists, I would like Elena to say something. Elena.
Yes, I can hear. Hello, dear people. I'm very happy I've been invited to found the magazine. And I actually, I have a great possibility to see all of you. I'm in Monaco right now. And today my husband, who is an expert for sustainable energy and who has a project at the moment of sustainable energy, he cannot participate because he's another meeting. But I'm listening to you carefully, and I will present from my side everything what we'll be saying on this meeting, and I will send it to him. If any interesting projects, please use my email. I think you have my contacts here. Yeah. I'm among of big investors here in Monaco, and I have very big circle of friends and people here in Monaco. So send me details of projects. I will present them, and I love to collaborate with African people. Last year I was participate on African Summit in London, and I know many of your national, local business people. They're great. They're doing good. Africa next 50 years will be on the top.
Thanks, Elena.
Thank you, Zosa. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask the question that has been posed to all panelists. And it says, how do you feel about the political will to successfully implement what is now a global energy transition towards renewables and clean energy? Starting with Professor Eboho.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just before I respond to that, I wanted to say something briefly on what Hannah has said about local content. There is some kind of misconception here, in the sense that most listeners here would not believe that your government, in some instances, I have concrete evidence, your government actually actively discourage the recruitment of local people to certain positions in these companies. But unknown to you, you'll be blaming multinational companies for all the ills. Not the multinational companies. Nothing. The multinational companies are even the one, in some cases, pressurizing host government because of their own image and because of their corporate responsibility to do certain things that you ordinarily will want, done. But that issue is not very, very, clear. I'd just like to put that on the table. In terms of energy transition.
Mr. Brown, what government are you talking about?
Well, Nigerian government is right there. I can give you numerous examples. We don't need to go into that.
No,
but
I
it's
thought
often,
you meant another government.
No. Across the developing Angola, you name it.
Right. Okay.
But it's easier to use multinational companies as scapegoats for political party expediency and discussion. I have been in some situations where I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I can even give you one example where in Share, right, they recruited a colleague of mine in Nigeria to come and shadow. They headhunted him from UBA now to Share. And he was mostly in the investment arms of their property arms and so on and so forth. The expatriate was retiring back to Holland. And he called all the directors together and says, well, Dr. So-and-so is taking over from me. The Nigerians there, they voted against it. They said they cannot put their pensions in the hands of a fellow Nigerian. The Dutchman was quite shocked. And for the same reason you have, our databases for our seismic data and everything is controlled for Holland, not in Nigeria. So, when you are looking at that, it's very, very important, for us to be very informed, before we stop these kind of activities. Sometimes I get really frustrated when I hear that, okay, to the extent of their knowledge, they are harassing foreign workers in Nigeria, etc., etc. If your government stand and say this is what they want to do, it will be done. But on paper, it will be very beautiful, which everyone reads. But when it comes to implementation, they don't do it. I just want to quickly say that. Come back to energy transition, okay? This is where, again, I see this as an opportunity, because this is where this clean energy initiative that Duro and Sami, and also the involvement of young Nigerian entrepreneurs are coming in, that is really, really exciting, because it reduces the steep, the steep curve that you have to climb if you were using conventional energy generation technology and so on and so forth before. It hastens things up. And then these new energy sources, they are not as expensive, because the conventional energy generation system, they are very huge and indivisible, okay? And then they are very labor intensive. You can use it to generate a lot of jobs. So the opportunities are there. Then coming back again to the issue. The government should be at the heart of driving this transition, and there are various policy instruments that they can use to do this. And I want to come to that they do not understand when they talk about private sector participation, etc., etc. The amount of the subsidies that the government give to private sector operators, to enable them produce goods and services and deliver it to end users is very, very huge. Rather than force the producers to reduce their prices, what government do in developed countries, countries that have performed very well, is that they give this money either in terms of reduction in taxes or other kind of incentive to private operators to enable them break even. They even give them money to buy equipment and all those kind of stuff. If I wanted to set up like Durojai here in this country, all I need to do is go to the Department of Trade and Industry here and say, I want to be producing meters in Nigeria. And then there's a country desk representative there that will take me to you yourself. You know this, Esosa. These are some of the things that people that are here can be doing through you and Kede, and they will fund it. Why? Because they know when I start producing and I start paying tax, and the people that I employ start paying tax, they will recoup their money back several times.
Yeah.
So the opportunities are there, but the government has to take the lead, and also multinational companies also, they have to play their role, and they can also help to speed up the process, either through their own corporate social responsibility arm, or having downstream operators and so on and so forth. They don't necessarily have to compete. They can actually get this small scale, like a SAMI. I don't see any reason why, Shell and all these other companies cannot call SAMI in and say, well, we have a Shell camp, which is almost a mini city in Warri. Can you provide us, alternative form of energy, use our solar energy? That's one way of investing in whatever, and then they can use that to offset their own carbon whatever initiative.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you, Professor. Kede would like to say something here before Sammy or Duro or Ms. Naha. Kede.
Thank you very much. I followed the whole discussion, and I've been very impressed. Two quick issues. I know that Professor Ebohon wrote a paper for the World Bank. I suspect it was in 1996. And you did say in that paper that the issue with electricity in Nigeria, that's what caught my attention, was not money. I was very taken aback by that then, but knowing what I know now, I think, speaking as a lawyer, the challenges in the system in Nigeria is more of a regulatory framework that most lawyers are not versed in this angle. It's actually a specialist area. And so when you have individuals engaging in contracts that they don't really have an understanding of, then there's a problem. Then again, the privatization efforts of things that were done were, I would say, to my mind, not well thought out. Now, do you cancel those contracts? Of course not. Do you renegotiate them? Because there are so many things that, so I'm told that so those are the issues that I really want to raise quickly. And then with Sami, if you are able to quickly tell people source of funding. Thank you.
Thanks, Kede. Sami,
is it possible to just say one or two things there, just very quickly? You see, again, you are looking at that from a legal perspective, all right? From an economic development perspective, or as an economist, they will argue that one of the reasons you can't have this regulatory system working is because you have no means in place to compensate, people that are applying your policies, and also to apply punitive measures because of the huge sector of the economy that is outside, the main economy. unless you have those kind of measures, either that you can apply macroeconomic policies to in terms of taxation, incentive, tax reduction, you are not going to be able to influence anything. If you say, okay, don't do this, and they continue doing it, what can you do?
Okay, so I'll answer.
Thanks, Professor Sami.
Yeah, I'll answer the question very, very quickly on political will. No, the political will is not there. In fact, the Senate openly said a few months ago that they are not going to roll out any policies in support of electric cars because it will kill the oil industry. A lot of the senators are, a lot of the people in government are benefiting heavily from the oil industry, either by owning oil blocks or owning interests. So there is no political will. Now, if this was a political, if the topic was political, then I would have told you that actually it's not government. I've studied countries and how they transform, and revolutions and how they develop. The will never comes from government. No master will tell a slave you are free to go, right? So we as private people, we shouldn't wait for political will. We should start looking at within the confines of regulation and also the defined boundaries. What can we start doing to add value? And then hopefully we would have a critical mass that would eventually tip the boiling pot over, right? And we'll have a change. So that's the concept of what WINOC is following. And also to answer Mr. Katie, WINOC is sources of funding, particularly for rooftop solar. At the moment, we're actually turning down investors, both local and foreign investors. It's unfortunate that we Nigerians don't quickly catch on to opportunities, but foreign investors really understand the business model, they really understand the economics around it, and they are really, really coming in, right? So I can tell you confidently that we are actually turning down opportunities for funding. So sources of funding quickly are, of course, grants. I'm not a fan of grants because there's so much corruption in there. People take the money and then just pocket it. So, and of course, with grants, you can't really tell the commercial viability of the project. And if it's not commercially viable, in other words, you can hide losses, right? Or absorb losses. If it's not commercially viable, then it won't be sustainable, right? So there are a lot of grants out there. We're just about to close one, or a 300,000 euro grant from UK Aid. This will be our first one, and literally it's being forced on us, right? Because they want to work in partnership with us on providing power to women in northern Nigeria. So a lot of grant opportunities. Also private investors. There are so many private investors that are doing sub 10% annual interest rate. But you've got to be careful with that, with foreign investors, because of the foreign exchange risk. You have to look at how how to hedge it, how to hedge the FX risk. Hedging is quite expensive too, but if you're looking for opportunities to hedge FX risk, speak to the organizers of this event, then they'll be able to reach me. I'll be able to give you some really cheap ideas, which have actually emanated from the oil and gas industry. So, but in terms of local funding, the government, I wouldn't touch anything Nigerian government funding, right? There would always be a catch that comes with it. Try to avoid the government as much as possible and you will live a long time. So that's it.
Sami. As Sami has said, if you want to take up opportunities and you want to go into the energy sector, if you've not gone in, let us know. We will do something for you. And also in terms of those people who are already there and looking for funding, you heard Sami say he's even turned down opportunities for funding. Again, get in touch. I would like Duro, if you can please give us your take on it.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, I beg to disagree with Sami when he says there is no political will. The political will may not be where we want it to be, but I do know that there is Power Africa. Power Africa is a fund of close to $500 million run by the World Bank and the federal government in participation with Rural Electrification Agency and Deloitte. Deloitte, the consulting firm, is a firm that can connect you. I can connect you as well because I work with them. Of course, there are conditions precedent, which is designed to make sure that you are putting the money in a sustainable renewable energies program. And also the renewables model is larger than how the model that Sami is discussing, rooftop solar. Rooftop solar, to me, can be large, but it also has a limitation. How large is your roof? In Nigeria, in the tropics, if you go into the middle income, they need to power refrigerators and air conditioners. Those are inductive loads. Do you have enough rooftop space to put that rooftop solar? That is a limitation. Now, on funding, yes, there's a lot of funding for renewables, so I won't bother to talk about that. But also, for renewables, there is a desk in the Vice President's office working actively with Power Africa and all these people to make sure that that energy mix can be diversified. I think we should all research this before we debate it anymore, but these things are there. I don't know what Tommy has to say about Lumos. I think Lumos is a model that was set up and somehow it has been limited in expansion, even though I think it should be viable. So that's my little take on it. There is a political will. It's not where we want it to be, but there's been enough support from the federal government, whether the politicians want it or not, but there's been enough, and the regulations allow you to get fairly decent cost reflective tariffs. Feed-in tariffs are good. So that's what I know about it.
All right, thank you, Duro. So Duro is coming at it from another angle. He is saying there's the political will and the VP's office and I think Power Africa is there to help with funding. Again, if you're interested, hold on, Sami. Again, if you're interested in this, get in touch with us. Duro will also help you with this. Sami, you were going to say something.
I think we should have a session on political will because I can really speak on that. I actually know the MD of REA directly, right? I avoid these guys. They are not serious. That's the truth. I don't want to go too much in detail, yeah? But right. Let's just say, like, what you see on newspaper is different from reality. Let's leave it there. We can have another session.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Naha, do you have something to say? I know you're coming at it from the angle of the international. Have you got anything to say?
Sure. I've spent quite a lot of time in West Africa, and I've spent a lot of time in Nigeria as well. So my opinion is going to be right in the middle and on the fence with Sami and Duro. The political will is there, and I think the proposals and the conversations regarding the renewable sector is encouraging. But I'm also of the opinion, I work in the oil and gas sector. I don't think the oil and gas industry is going anywhere. I don't think that the renewable sector is going to supersede the oil and gas sector. I think there is encouragement of wind power and bio and solar is all very encouraging. And a lot of emphasis has been put and a lot of financing here from the UK into Nigeria especially. However, I am a bit of a realist, so I do know that there's a lot of vested interest within the oil and gas industry currently. So I think that we're going to have to do a lot more as people, just to enforce that we can push the renewables agenda a bit more.
All right, thank you. So from every member of the panelists, we know there are huge opportunities. Whether it's the downstream, the upstream, whichever area you are looking at, Africa needs light. Africa needs energy. Nigeria needs light. Nigeria needs energy. And there are opportunities in the market. So I would be encouraging everyone who have dived in and those who know others who will be interested in this sector to get in touch with us. And we'll be able to help you match whichever area of the sector you want to go in for. But there's opportunity across the board. Before Kede, you speak, Professor Bohon, do you have anything to just, say?
I think, Maha has actually articulated that point, because Duro should be should realize that when people say there's no political will, this is not just a comment made ordinarily. These are people that have seen initiative being floated and money being announced that is gone in, and in the end, nothing happened. When you look at events on ground, it is the same people in the shadowing, whatever, that are coming in here. We are in a country where they told us that 12 billion pounds or dollars was spent in electricity and did not yield 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. We've seen all this money that is pouring down. What the kind of political will we are talking about is somebody saying that, yes, Nigeria needs energy. If even he had to bring the Nigerian army, bring all the private investors together and say, I don't care how the electricity is delivered. Is it money you want? Here is it. Is it technical? Whatever it is, this is it. Is it the bank to support you, mobilize, bring everybody together, international community, whatever it is, and solve the problem? The issue is, what we see as energy problem in Nigeria is a money-making opportunity to a very selected few. And that is the truth. Some of the people that you'll be looking at now, but you may not know how they benefit from some of these kinds of initiatives. I cannot see a country that imports so much electricity generators wanting to see either a decentralized, call it whatever, grid or whatever you call it, succeed. So there's a lot to be done. If I was to do anything about Nigeria, those are the things I would ban completely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Boho. I would like to call on Kade now to give the closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I think it's been a very productive session as usual. There are two people that I would, and I'm sure with due respect to others who at least came in from America because of the time difference. I saw a Tracy from New York. I saw a good friend, Ibude Gobadia from America. I don't know what part of America, but it's certainly, if it's California, then that's even more commendable because of the time difference. And my good friend from Alberta, Canada, IK Akmitanyi. Well, the thing is, we've had fruitful discussions. We put all this stuff together. We engage with all the major stakeholders, that I can assure you. Political will, those are the issues that are trending that we will have to deal with. We cannot run away from it. And I think with the way things are going now, there will be more transparency. We will share a video on good governance to every participant here. So those issues had been touched on. Now, before I just close and wish everyone well, we are having
I have a couple of observations, Kade, so they will quickly talk, yeah?
Yes. So those are the quick observations. Then again, let me reiterate that this is our 10th year, and we are going to come up with something more in publication about the events we've done, the opportunities available. And I have to say this, that we also run a consultancy, and so some of this stuff that people are talking about, investment and everything, you can reach us and then we will take it from there. But once again, thank you very much. I understand there are some observations.
Yes, there are a couple of observations. One from Benj Og and another from Olubumi. Benj Og, Ugbebo, can you quickly say what you want? Unmute and just share.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'm at a webinar. I'll talk to you later.
Can you unmute? Yeah. Benjamin, can you unmute?
Very well.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Yeah, great conversation on energy. But like Professor Bond said, I was involved with the California transition from regular energy to renewables back in 2008, 2009. I was a two-time California delegate for the governor's renewable energy initiative. Anyways, the way we were able to transition from regular energy to renewables was a set of incentives to incentivize people to go green. Okay, so again, you have rebates. Okay, there were federal rebates, there was state and city rebates. So that in the U.S. you have about 50 up to 50% rebates. So your risk in going into solar and renewables is only about 50 to 55%. Whereas in the whole of the US, with a federal 33% rebate, your risk comes to about 67% before even applying, city and state rebates. So these were economic drivers for renewable energies, especially solar. And then also you have the banks. Single-digit interest rates always encourages, people to get into the business. Grid connectivity, all the power aggregated on your rooftop or wherever you put it on your property is aggregated by the utility companies. They pay you a nominal fee or tariff. And then they aggregate all the power into the grid, which effectively means that they are aggregating all of this power and improving grid connectivity and generational capacity. So a lot can be learned from our experiment in California. It's been the biggest employer so far since the recession, and was also a big part of, taking the U.S. out of recession. And this is solar energy and wind and all the other renewables. So a lot can be learned instead of us just doing things as if it's never been done before. The banks have to bring their interest rates down. Like we rightly mentioned, most of the world's biggest economies operating at 0 point something percent interest rates. Nigeria is still stuck in double digits. When is that going to come down?
Okay, all right.
So we need to address these issues for us to really go green.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Benjamin. Sammy has been operating in Nigeria for over 1 year and has tried as much as possible to run away from the interest rate. So he has a lot to share on that. Like I said, get back to us. I would like to call on Olubumi now to make an observation. 1 minute max, please.
Yeah, because we have to round up. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Olubumi Alibalogun. I'm actually from Abuja, Nigeria.
Okay.
To be precise, and okay. I don't want to be specific to a particular speaker like Sammy or Prof, but I really want to stand with Prof. In the sense that he's very theoretical and at the same time he's practical. Then the lady that talked about the local content also. So I don't know how Mr. Sammy is going to go about the business model. For instance, where I live in Abuja, it's a very, I don't want to call it a remote area, but there's so many business opportunities here. Even where I live, so many very well-to-do people in this place. But I've been trying to get a bank, even Zenith Bank to be precise, that they should come over to this place, and they are just going about. So I've just been looking for a way to bring a microfinance bank to be established in this community. So going to the power that Sammy has been talking about, I think I sent a message about being, what do you call it now? Being, I'm interested. Power is everything. Without power, even when it comes to human, without power, it means you are sick. So it's something that we have to look into. And just like the other guy said, Mr. Ben, if you are able to get a vast land, you can build up your grid in this area and supply to people. You understand? And I want to appreciate you, Sosa, for this opportunity. Then the next one we're going to do, please, maybe we might have to bring 1 or 2 government officials. I know I know a senator that will be interested in this kind of conference. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
So
Watch the space.
Sammy, you have got a representative in Nigeria now. That's good.
Watch the space. We've been talking about solutions.
No, I'm available.
That will be helping players as well. Because of the time, we have a lot more to do. So watch the space, but keep in touch. Get in touch with us.
Sorry, a quick one. Yeah. When we talk about the people, regulators or whatever, we could have gotten them actually. I mean, we spoke to 1 or 2, but our viewpoint and our model is let's hear from the people that really matter. So sometimes we're talking about regulators. It's not that we don't know what they're doing, but we want to hear from the SAMIs of this world, the professors of this world, the speakers, top quality speakers who have given a perspective and have not told it to be politically correct. And so those are one of the things. But I think in our next event, we possibly will bring a regulator. I just needed to let you know that in the past we have spoken about regulators.
Okay. Benjamin, you were going to say something. You have less than 1 minute.
Rounding up in the next minute.
Yes.
Yeah. So, wow. Okay. Huh. I don't know.
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Quick.
Okay, very well. So my thing is, we need all kind of policies to make this work. The government has to put its hands on deck so we can have a uniform policy that's open to everybody and has an opportunity for everybody to participate, either by way of generation or selling power to the grid or using solar energy. But especially the banks, they are really holding stuff back. We can talk about doing business in Nigeria, but if the interest rate is not right, you're gonna go to the ground. So the banks needs to be involved. Single-digit interest rates is pivotal for any business. So my 2 cents.
All right, thank you. So I'm just going to conclude now. We have talked about the opportunities in the sector. The World Bank sees it as something worth about 20 billion. Sammy has said it's either times 10 or times 100.
Yeah, sure.
It's huge. Another thing we're talking about is that things are in place, but not implementable. So we're looking in terms of other innovative practices, especially based on the operators that have actually worked on ground and seen the bottlenecks in the system. There are subsidies in the sector. There is the will from investors. There's the will from government. However, Africa still lacks power supply. Nigeria lacks power supply. So what we need to be doing, there are opportunities. So it's kind of taking control of that opportunity from a community perspective. So like I said, watch the space. If you are interested in doing business in this area or already doing business in this area, get in touch with us and we will come up with solutions, because this is what this is all about. This is how we can thrive in a very, very challenging economy. But there are potentials, there's optimism. So take that on board and be a player in this sector. And what I would like to say is that please just raise your hand and say thank you to our very, very expert panelists. They've done very, very well. And thank you all for attending. I know there are a lot of people from different parts of the United States. There are people from Europe. There are people from the UK. There are people from the different parts of Nigeria. It's been very well done, and you've been very participatory and very engaging. We look forward to the next event that we are going to have the first Friday of next month. So I would like to wish you a very, very happy weekend and see you next month. Bye, everybody.